You finished it. The pattern is written. The photos are edited. The PDF is uploaded on your website looking absolutely gorgeous. And on Tuesday morning, you posted a picture and typed, "It's available now. Link in bio." And then you refresh your sales page about 40 times. And it was quiet. Not nothing, just quiet. Maybe a couple of sales from the same handful of people who always buy from you. And you sat there thinking, okay, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't launch. You announced it. And those are two different things, announcing it and launching it. Hey, and welcome back to the Hey Tori podcast, where I answer your digital marketing questions for creative entrepreneurs. I'm Tori McElwain, digital marketing coach, fellow quilter, author of Workshops Unleashed, and founder of the Digital Marketing Magic Coaching Program. Today, we are talking about launching. So what it actually is, where it kind of came from, why it works the way it works, and the two different roads you can take through it. Now, before we start, I would love to say, if you are enjoying this podcast, go ahead and leave me a quick review, 1 or 2 lines about which one might have been your favorite episode or what you're getting out of this so far. I would love to know if you're enjoying it and if you have any questions. There's also a link in the show notes to a Google Doc that you can fill out to ask me any questions that I can answer on the podcast. Okay, back to launching. So today is the what and the why. And the how lives somewhere else. And I'll tell you exactly where at the end. But here is why I'm doing it this way. Most people who are stuck on launching are not stuck on the how. They're stuck because they don't actually know what launching is. And you cannot execute a thing that you have not defined for yourself. So let's define it. Okay, so today's question comes from experience speaking to my one-on-one clients. So I'm combining a few different members into one person because I've watched the exact same thing happen enough times now that it's not just one person's story anymore. It's becoming a pattern. So we're going to call this person Dana. So Dana has been in the DMMC for a little bit. She's got a digital free motion quilting class. It's fully built, ready to go. And before the launch, she came to me and asked basically, do I need to build a whole system for this, or can I just post about it, send a couple of emails and see what happens? And I respond very much as in, I recommend that you do a full launch. So one resource that we have in the DMMC, the Digital Marketing Magic Coaching Program, is the email launch playbook. Now, to go along with that, we also have our chat bot that I named Sela, your creative email launch assistant. And she'll walk you through the whole launch sequence. She helps get it close to your voice. She's mainly a framework builder, so she can tell you what kind of email to send out when, and then give you some bare bones so you can build off of it. So Dana, most of the time, Dana does use this advice. So she sits down with Sela, she answers the questions that Sela asks, and then Sela gives her the whole printout of a 10-day email launch campaign. Then Dana sends about a third of it. So not because she forgot. She had them written. They were sitting right there in her drafts folder. She just second guessed herself and she stopped. And her launch was pretty quiet. She hit her bare minimum goal. She was okay with that. But she would have been happier with more. So she came back to me and she said, I don't think it worked. So that's when I start asking questions. So one of my roles as a coach is just to ask some questions, get down on what actually happened. And then we actually look at some metrics. So I asked her some questions. I don't want to talk about why she chose what she did. What I'd like to do is get to the question underneath that action. The one I really want to answer today is this. Why does it matter how many times you show up? Why does it matter how many emails you send? If the offer's good, isn't just sending once good enough? So here's what I see happening underneath this. It's almost ever what a lot of people think. Dana did not have like a copyright problem. The emails were good. Stila wrote them with her, so she had something to build off of, and she turned it into her own voice about her own class. She did not have a strategy problem either. The strategy was sitting in her drafts folder, finished and ready. What Dana had was a assumption that she didn't need to do the full launch. And my understanding of a launch and her understanding of a launch were two different things. So I would think of it more of a definition problem of what is actually a launch and why do we want to do it this way? So the definition problem first. So Dana thought a launch was a moment, a thing that you announce, a thing like you make the thing, you tell the people the thing exists, they decide yes or no, it's for me. And that's it. She's done. That it's an announcement. An announcement is pretty much a single point in time. A launch is not just a moment in time. A launch is a stretch of time that you build. It has a beginning that happens before anybody can really buy it. And then it has an end. And the whole middle part is the actual launch. So the day your cart opens is the launch. So the day your cart opens is the official launch of that product, but it's one day inside the full launch. Now let's talk about why she did not do the full launch. So Dana, and remember she's a mix of people. She's not just one person. So this happens fairly regularly. Uh, a lot of my clients will say that emailing 4 times feels fine. Emailing 5 feels like they're nagging, like they don't want to bug people. But and somewhere around the middle of creating the launch sequence or even getting it scheduled or sending it, there's a voice in their head that says this audience has heard this already. You're being annoying. Everyone can tell you're desperate. And you do not consciously decide to quit. You just find a reason not to finish the launch, not to send those emails. And then tomorrow, and then the cart closes and it's all over. Or the sale ends or the bonus ends and then it's all over. So I've been doing this for quite a few years and I still even get that voice. So let me tell you. So let me put your mind at ease in a small way, at least. This email sequence that we have inside the DMMC, and even if you have your own email sequence that you have tested and have used and have even recommended to people, it is built out in a way to help someone make a decision on whether or not they want to purchase from you. And it helps to see that full sequence for a lot of buyers. So when we create a launch sequence, and I'm specifically talking about email, but this goes hand in hand with what you post on social media as well, and even a sales page. But specifically when we're thinking about an email launch, because that's probably the most common one that we use to share our patterns and our classes and our services with our audience. When you're looking at the email sequence, what you're looking at is the sales process. And it can feel a little uncomfortable. It can. And you'll see people unsubscribe, and that's okay. Usually people who unsubscribe, they are never going to buy from you anyway. So let them go. But within that sequence, when we're sending it that quickly, back to back to back, what we're doing is building up first a little bit of anticipation, and then we answer all of their objections. and then they can decide whether or not they're going to buy. Sometimes we hit the objective on the first announcement. Sometimes it's even before we announce. You say, hey, there's a pattern coming, and this is what it is, and this is what it's could be for, and this is what it can do for you. And they're going to be so excited. They're going to buy right when you announce it, right when the launch opens, the cart opens. And then some people will have questions. They'll be like, okay, oh, that's really pretty. Maybe I should get that. Maybe I'm not ready to get that. And then they'll have questions. They'll have a few objections. Now, objections, keep in mind, they're not a no. A no is a no. So if they're, I don't know, that's good. That's fine. They're done. But if they have an objective, usually it's a yes, but. So like one of the most common is yes, but it looks like it's going to take me a lot of time. Or yes, but the price, I still have to pay for this. But we still can answer those objections with the sequence that we're putting out there. So, and you'll know a few of them. You'll see some that talk about frequently asked questions. So they're answering some of those questions that have come up throughout the launch or maybe in past launches that you can answer quickly. Some objections can be addressed with testimonials from people who say that your patterns are really clear or your class was really worth their time and energy and the price and what they got out of it. So looking at these different aspects, they can say, oh, okay, this is for me. Oh, she did answer that question I had. Maybe I am ready to buy this. I'm going to say, okay, the bonus is ending or the sale price is ending or the card is about to close. The class is about to start. They're like, oh, okay, I need to make a decision here. Yes, I think I want this. But if you're not sending out the entire sequence, you're not giving them that chance to make that decision. You're also not giving them a chance to actually see the pattern. Now, many of us have really full inboxes, so missing emails is fairly common. And even if they were interested in the pattern, they probably miss a couple of the emails. So I would run a full launch and see where people are dropping off and then improve those emails for the next launch. So going back to that definition. So with that big explanation, I kind of went off the side there from even my notes here. So I want to go back to that definition. So I like to think about the launch as more of an event. So I think it turns your pattern, your class into an event. It's not necessarily a product. It's like a party. So something with shape and a build and a date that people are waiting for. Even in my book, Workshops Unleashed, I compare this to a rocket launch. And I want to be specific about which part of that metaphor really matters. So, because when people hear rocket launch, they picture the literal liftoff, like the fire, the noise, the countdown tone, 9, 8, right? And nobody tunes in for all the stuff beforehand. They tune in for the liftoff. And the liftoff is only about 10 seconds long if you're doing other things and then you zone in. The countdown is part of that event. It is the part where everybody starts to get ready. They start to make plans around the event. They start to get ready and they know when everything is going to happen. And then they get excited for that countdown. And then by the time they hit 0, they've already decided, are they going to watch this rocket launch or not? And same with your pattern. Are they going to tune in to look at this pattern, to look at this class offer? And then the rest of those emails help them decide if they're still on the fence. So one reason I compare this to a rocket launch is because I grew up right next to Edwards Air Force Base in California, in the Antelope Valley, in Lancaster specifically. And before a rocket would launch, sometimes it was I remember there being the space shuttle launching, but I think I was too young to see that, but there was a lot of talk around it. There were also just regular displays of Air Force coolness because we were right next to Edwards. So one of the things they would do to get ready for a rocket launch or something is they would prepare the public. So everybody knew what was happening. Nobody was surprised when the sonic booms were going off or, the TV crews would come in. So they would inform the public. And then us as students, our curriculum would kind of shift around the rocket. And we would talk about when it was going to happen, what was going to happen, coloring sheets. We did math around it. We wrote stories about it for spelling and reading. We read books about rockets and things like that. And that's what reminds me of what we're doing before a launch even starts is we're getting them ready, getting that curiosity going, showing them what they're going to need for it, showing them what they'll need to be able to make with it. And it just gets them prepared for your next class or your next pattern. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about where this came from. So if you want to see the roots of this, because that was something I was craving when I was learning marketing is I heard the word launch from everyone and their grandma. Not really, but like so many people would talk about launching. And I was like, what is launching? And nobody could give me a definition. So I went to the root of what everybody else was referencing, which is a book called Launch. It's a product launch formula by a guy named Jeff Walker. Now he's been teaching this for a long time and he wrote a book, the book Launch. And that's when the internet kind of adopted that language to talk about, um, marketing a product. They all made their own variation of what a launch is. So instead of relying on other people to explain to me what the launch was, I went straight to what I consider the source of what modern day launching looks like. So if you're confused on what the launch is, you can go back to that book. You can read in a lot more detail. But it's called Launch, and inside it, it's the product launch formula by Jeff Walker. And I like how he spreads everything out over a couple of days, and he talks about teaching first and selling at the end, but also giving them an end date. And I think we've all heard that deadlines make deals, that kind of thing. Like giving someone a time when something ends around this product is a really great way to help them decide if it's for them or not. However, you'll hear launch and you'll hear everybody talk about a webinar launch, a email launch, a this launch, a that launch, and how they have interpreted what a launch is and what they have created in order to launch a product. But the basics are the same throughout an actual launch. You have a pre-launch, which just gets them ready and interested and maybe curious. The launch, which is the open and close time of the cart. And then the post-launch, which is the follow-up. So you're following up with your audience and yourself to see how everything went. Now, generally, it's about the underlying structure, no matter which launch, no matter which marketing guru you want to follow. It has the basics of like teach a little before you sell, spread it out over some time, give people more than one chance to actually see what you're offering. And it's not made to be manipulation, but it is giving them a chance to, again, decide yes or no, this is going to be for me. So inside the DMMC, we go over 2 different launches and then you pick one. You don't have to do both. You can pick one. And like I said earlier, most people go with the email launch. So you build the whole thing in writing. Your audience reads it on their own time in their inbox. And this is the road if you don't want to be on camera, if you would rather write than show up live. And it's a little more forgiving, especially if you're very nervous about launching and selling something that you've created. Road 2 is the webinar launch where you show up live. Sometimes this looks like a event, a challenge, a sew-along even, and you teach something useful and then you make your offer and then you follow it up with email. And here's why I bring this up for the podcast and my particular audience, you guys. You're teachers, you're designers. That is like literally what you do. A webinar, it's not a sales presentation. A webinar is more of a class. You already know how to run a class. You've done it. Many of you have done it in person, online, and the numbers back that up. The teaching first kind of webinars, they convert somewhere around like 15 to 25%. It's a little high, especially in the crafting world. We tend to have a little bit better percentages from our audiences because they do love what we're doing, what they're doing, whether it's quilting, crocheting, knitting, and they love their craft. The sales pitch kind of webinars, they convert more like 10, if I'm being generous. It's about 10%. So teaching first, it wins in the numbers game. And then keep in mind, if you're doing like a recorded webinar, just without the live component, so you're just sending them to recording, that one drops to like 3%. It's not very good. People are very, especially right now, they're very much community oriented. They want to see you live. They want to see you're a real person. And the replay that you send out, that one's great for follow up. Then one more thing inside the DMMC, and then I'll stop. But this is something that I think you should collect for yourself: an email launch sequence, a webinar that you can reuse, and then I have a document in there called launch editions. So all the ways that you can kind of tweak a launch to make it more interesting for you or for your audience. And that's after you have the basics down. So if you were sitting across from me on a coaching call right now, here's what I would have you do. So 3 things when it comes to planning a launch. So number 1, I would pick what you're going to launch. Number 2, I would pick your date for when you're going to launch it, and then work backwards. Now you decide when your offer will go live, and you're going to back up. So if you're doing a pattern launch, 2 weeks is probably just fine. Same thing with like a I think it's probably considered low price workshop or class, about $45 to $65. I think 2 weeks is fine. If you're looking at higher price workshops and things that take a long time, like a solo long or a block of the month, I would probably do a launch more like 3 or 4 weeks, depending on how big it is, how much information there is to share, and that kind of thing. So work your way backwards. If it's a lower priced, less time consuming offer, 2 weeks is fine. If you are looking at a bigger offer, membership, block of the month for a year long block of the month, I would think about 4 weeks and really give them time to learn about it, understand it, and get excited for it, and then have that open and close time. Then I would pick which way you're going to launch. So like I said, the 2 that are most common are going to be the email launch and the webinar launch. So which one are you gonna pick? So 1, pick your offer. 2, pick your date. 3, pick your road, and then create your content. So content is a general term meaning whatever you're going to put in any online platform. So content can be podcasting, it can be videos, it can be posts, it can be emails, it can be blog posts. So tailor your content for that window. So if you chose 2 weeks, all of your content that you create for those 2 weeks is going to be about that offer. If you chose a month, everything that you share is going to be about that offer for the month. So here's what I would ask Dana if we were one-on-one. So she had a launch that didn't go so well. She's like okay with it, right? So what I would suggest is that she look at what she did and then look for ways to improve it for the next launch. So if she only sent out a handful of emails, at the next launch, let's send out all of the emails, the entire sequence. If she was worried about bugging people, like it was a real block for her, what I would suggest is having an interest list. So sending out with that pre-launch, your pre-launch interest building, make an interest list. So everybody who's interested in your patterns is going to be on this interest list. Or if everyone who's interested in your class, let's say it's a free motion quilting class, they can go on the interest list. They will sort themselves via poll, and all you have to do is send out the full sequence to that list. Okay, so before I go, I want to wrap up with numbers from a real launch. I'm going to share with you my workshops Unleashed book club launch. So just a little bit of context. My book, Workshops Unleashed, it's priced at $47. The book club itself is free, but there is an upsell. They could, if they would like to meet live, get feedback, and win prizes, they can take the business intensive, which was $45. Yeah, $45. So all in all, they could spend $92 to be in the business intensive. So that's the most I can make from one person. Okay. So with that in mind, I posted on Instagram is my main platform at the moment, but I did share a lot of my short form video to other platforms. So on Instagram, I posted 28 pieces of content. None of them went very big. They all got somewhere between 200 and 500 views. So not super big. On TikTok, I had a few get a little bit more, a couple get up to a couple thousand. but nothing too huge. My email list was 1215, so 1,215 email subscribers. I sent out one pre-launch email to my list, but it was embedded in a newsletter. And I routinely send my newsletters every other week. So they get a newsletter twice a month. And then on the 1st and the 15th, that's what I always do. And then I sent all 10 emails to everyone on my list. And then those 28 pieces of content, I also posted those that were reels to YouTube and TikTok. So I had a total of 20 people sign up for the free book club. I sold 16 books, and then I had 12 people sign up for the business intensive. Now, those emails that sent out, every time I sent an email, someone signed up. Now, if I had stopped sending my emails, I would not have gotten 12 people to join the business intensive. And these 12 teachers, they are doing amazing. And then those in the free book club, they also in the Facebook group with us, and they're posting and they're having a lot of fun as well, as far as I can tell. And then I ended that launch with 1,201. I gained about 32 subscribers. So I lost a little over than what I gained. Not quite even. I have one client currently running the full email sequence that we worked together with on Sela. So I walked her through, we had a one-on-one, and I walked her through how to use Sela. She answered all the questions. Sela wrote her the sequence. And then the emails that she's sent out so far, she's made sound way better than what Sela did, but it gave her the framework she needed, and she's following the framework. And I'm really excited to do her end of launch, a follow-up to see how the full launch goes. And what I loved about this client was that she came to the launch meeting. So this meeting specifically was about her pattern launch. And she came, asked questions, I asked questions, and we worked together, and she was coachable, and she's willing to try the whole sequence. And that's really important. If you're willing to try it, you can always tweak it the next time to make it better. Now that's a whole nother subject. And how do we know how to make it better? That can get a little complicated. Okay. So your Hey Tori takeaway this week. So this takes about, 15, 20 minutes. Open your calendar, pick an offer, put your date on it for your next launch, the day that it goes live. It does not have to be perfect, and you can move it if you need to, but then count backwards. And again, 2 weeks is good if you're doing a pattern launch, even longer if you'd like. And that is going to start the day that your pre-launch starts. So that's it. 2 dates on a calendar, because until launching has a date attached to it, it's a Sunday, and Sunday is not a plan. It's not a strategy. So today made you realize that your last launch was actually more of an announcement. I think that's really good. That is a very useful realization. And now it's almost fall. It's almost the time when we are gearing up our launches. So if you need help with a launch, please look at the Digital Marketing Magic Coaching Program and see if it's a good fit for you. I would love to help you plan out a launch. And if you have a question and you want me to answer on the show, the link to send me a question is in the show notes, and I read every single one of them.